here. Article 1 is the new rules language. Okay.
Yeah.
Simplifying the rules language, changing it to where you have, like it says, just move, close, range, power, free, or double power. One thing that I like, I'm just going to give a heads up about it. I do like how they're defining how they write their sentences so that it's easier to interpret. As a language arts teacher, okay, now I understand. When you put a period here, I understand what it means. When you do this, I now know how this kind of power is going to interact. So what were your thoughts when you kind of looked over these change to, the new rules language? What do you think about it?
I think it's fine. Any new player jumping into it is going to have just a little bit more to figure out. But, it's going to mean that it's going to take up less space on the cards. And hopefully, the power ability card will be shorter. So, I think that's good. And definitely, like you said, making sure all their powers and all their abilities are worded the same way. So you're not trying to learn 3 different languages. You're just, once you learned how it's written, you can interpret all the other powers easier. So, and I think that's important they do that. I'm really happy. It seems like, this is kind of a general thing about everything. It really seems like they're really putting a lot of effort into these rules. It's not just like we're going to bump this number up 1 and minus this number 1. They're really changing a lot of things and putting a lot of effort into trying to make the game play better.
I know, I agree with you. That's one of my biggest takeaways. When you first read this first one, they're kind of rolling it out. Looks like they're making a major change to kind of streamline it, make it easier to logically understand how powers interact with themselves. That's one of my biggest takeaways from that article, is that now I know that with this power action, I can use this close action, because that was very confusing, because I come from a time when I'm pretty sure when I was first starting, Blades, Claws, and Exploit Weakness worked together, or we thought it worked together. That's always a confusing – no, not that. Flurry. Maybe it's Flurry. There's confusing things about how powers interact.
Exactly.
And now with this – move, you can take a move action, and this creates a close. And everything that says close can work with it. Everything that says range can work with it. And if it doesn't have it with it, then it doesn't work. If you can make an attack, well, if it doesn't say close, too bad. You can't stack that power. And that's where you see a lot of abuse in the metagame, is the ability to stack powers. Do you understand how those powers stack? Gets kind of crazy out there.
Definitely. Your example of Exploit Weakness and Blades and Charge and Flurry, that's a very common, does this work with this, does that work with that kind of situation.
Kind of going over I had those 3 questions we're going to ask ourselves about each article. What problem do I anticipate from this change? I'm going to be honest. When this first came out, I loved it. I loved the simplification, and we've kind of seen it in some figures here lately. However, my biggest problem I anticipate is that this has to be a long-term change. Okay, that's a problem I see. If this is going to be, in 2 years we're going to make another change, I think you're going to wear out your fan base. If you're going to make this big change, understand you're going to you're ripping a huge Band-Aid off and trying to correct it. You don't want to open this back up again. This is one of those things where I'm expecting you to build stats around this, and I'm expecting this to level out, and over the next 3 or 4 years, this is the way it kind of evolves, and we're going to tweak a little bit, but not major changes. As mine, what about you? What problem do you anticipate from this change?
Well, you mentioned the future and the longevity of the new wording, but talking about the past pieces, there's definitely going to be some difficulty interpreting them with the new language. When something says do something, does that mean close this or that? They've been a little bit loose in their wording before now, and there may be certain pieces, certain powers that are just really hard to translate to the new language. And when you teaching a new player the new language, when they go back to some of these old pieces, they're going to have no idea. Not no idea. It's going to be harder to figure out what they're doing. Over time, those older pieces are going to rotate out, and it's not going to be so bad. But definitely in a golden age situation, it's going to be interesting to see. Just like having 2 different character cards, one with a dial on the back, one not with a dial on the back. Even that little bit of difference can kind of be confusing to people.